I think the biggest thing is penalties. Just having those explosive plays and getting them negated by those penalties. We talked about it kind of last week. It's just cleaning those up. So just going to continue to work on that and clean those up so we just stop hurting ourselves.
Justin Fields talking about the difference between the first half and the second half for the Steelers offense. And in the first half, saw a lot of people tweeting, hey, Russ, get used to the bench. Hey, Justin Fields is the guy. And then the second half happened. And the Steelers scored 13 points in total. Actually, Denver scored more in the second half than the Steelers did, which makes this quite the Rorschach test at 6 a.m. Should Justin Fields continue to be the quarterback? 412-928-9370. Dorin, I thought he did some things that not a lot of quarterbacks in football would be able to do in that first half. And then in the second half, it was poop. So where do you come down on this whole Justin Fields thing?
I just think that this is what Justin Fields is. 13 for 20, 117 yards. They finally scored a touchdown. He had 27 yards rushing. Last game, I think he had a little bit more rushing and a little bit more passing, but I think that that's what Justin Fields is. If you want to live and die by that, okay, that's fine. But I want to see what Russell Wilson can bring to the table. I don't think that Russell Wilson is done. I still think that whenever he is full healthy, that he is going to be the quarterback, and I want to see that. I just want to see what it looks like. I want to see if it's different. I want to see if this offense is different. I want to see what Arthur Smith can do with Russell Wilson. And this is not really a slight of Justin Fields. He is what he is, and I'm not saying that that's bad. It's not bad. He's obviously 2-0. He's won them football games. But if you expect to win in the NFL throughout an entire season this way, it's just not going to happen. And, it needs some more life. This offense needs more life. That was a boring game yesterday.
Yes, it was.
And those two teams were not, the Steelers didn't look that much better at times than the Denver Broncos. And the Denver Broncos stink.
They're terrible.
You should go in there. If you're a high-powered football team, you should go in there and you should wipe them out. And they didn't. They let them hang around, like you said, in the second half. But I think that my intuition tells me that if Russell Wilson does get the start, say this week, it will look different. And I do want to see that. I just want to see if it will look different. But I do believe that it would. Just by... I think that his veteran presence and just knowing and playing that position at a high level for so long.
I think about that Atlanta game, Dorin, and there's a couple of drives that I don't know that the Steelers keep them moving because Justin Fields did it with his legs, and I'm not sure Russ would have. Mm-hmm. But I also think he being Russell, scores a touchdown in that game. Mm-hmm. And I think he probably scores more than one touchdown in this game. The only thing I'll disagree with you on is you say Justin Fields is what he is. Maybe you're right. I hope you're not right. I hope there's still more meat on the bone there. He's young, but I have this thing in my head where I'm wrestling back and forth that he is young and you want to see him improve and you think there might be improvement, but we're also talking about a guy in year number 4, and how many times do we see guys improve in year number 4? I think we're both going to get what we want here, actually.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like Russell Wilson's going to play against the Chargers. Dulac reported that before the game, that they're really going to take it easy on Russ and that they're going to give him the time to rest. He's probably going to be limited in practice this week, and they're probably going to go with Fields again. But I would imagine that if it looks like this in the Chargers game, and that's one of the top 2 scoring defenses in the league the Chargers have, if it looks the same, you're going to see Russ in game 4. Mm-hmm. I have no doubt about that. They need to see Justin Fields not just manage the game. You've got to score points. Yeah, 18 was enough to beat the Atlanta Falcons. Yes, 13 was enough to beat the Broncos, and you are supposed to beat the team in front of you. And hey, look, they got 2 wins away from Acrisure Stadium to start the year. Those things are like gold, man.
Yeah, they are. Yep.
Like gold. You got to be thankful for that. Especially when the Ravens are sitting there at 0-2, and the Bengals, my God, are sitting there at 0-2. You got to be thankful for being 2-0. A lot of teams playing not great football right now and not finding a way to win. The Steelers have done the opposite. Not playing great offensive football, but they found ways to win. But we know what this looks like. We know where this leads you. We know what the end game is if you don't get better offensively. So for me, I'm looking forward to seeing Justin Fields one more time. I hope he shows out. If he doesn't, even if you win, if it looks like this, Dorin, I'm with you. You got to go to Russell Wilson.
I just don't know how it's going to look any better. Like, what can they do? I mean, we talked about
score
last week to this week, and he didn't do that. You know, he threw Darnell Washington a touchdown, but like it just, I wanted to see more of Justin Fields be the offense and control the offense, and I don't know if I really saw that yesterday. I just don't know how much better it could look, and I don't like they have playmakers, but do they still have enough? I mean, that's coming back to the conversation. I mean, Van Jefferson again, 2 for 14, like that. You know, for your number 2 receiver, like that's just not going to cut it. And I know George Pickens, you know, that one play got called back because, and we'll get into Broderick Jones, but. You know, 2 for 29, I believe, and it's just not explosive offense, and I just don't know how you can manufacture that for a third week in a row. I hope so, but I just don't see it. I don't see it right now.
I think if they cleaned up the penalties, you'd be looking at a 20-6 win. I think you might score a touchdown on that drive. The Broderick Jones penalty, as you mentioned, that's a hell of a throw by Justin Fields. I mean, that might be as good of a throw as you're going to see in the NFL that week. And it gets taken away due to penalty, which is really frustrating. And like you mentioned, we'll get into Broderick Jones and gestures wildly. That maddening situation. Justin kind of has the Kenny Pickett thing going on here, doesn't he? Kenny, the reason why there were a lot of people that didn't give up on Pickett was because he was 14-10 as a starter. And it seemed that Kenny made the plays in the critical moments at the end of game. I mean, how many times did we see that? We saw it his rookie season against Baltimore to Najee Harris, against Las Vegas to George Pickens in the end zone. We saw it last season against Baltimore. He finds Pickens down the sideline. Kenny Pickett made plays in critical moments, and they didn't score a lot of points. Mm-hmm. Justin Fields isn't necessarily doing that. There's not a fourth quarter comeback in each of these two games, but if you want to believe in Justin Fields, I think he popped enough at a few moments where you can contort yourself into thinking that it looked better than it did. Well, it got called back due to penalty, and I did some of that last week. He had that great throw into the bucket to George Pickens down the sideline, and they called the push-off there, which was a ridiculous call. This game, best throw of the day, gets called back due to penalty. If you wanted to see some flash, you did. The problem is you're not seeing near enough of it.
Right.
Near enough of it. And my hope, I said this going into the game, Dorin, 6 scoring drives, only 2 3-and-outs. That's a good place to start. I will take that every day. Game number 1, but game number 2 had to be better.
Right.
Game number 2 was not better. And I am happy we get a third game due to the injury. But I'll be very clear on this. If it's not better, if it looks the same, throw Russ in there. Russ is going to get hurt at some point again this season. He just is. I can't sit here with any level of confidence and say they're going to put Russell Wilson in game 4 and he's going to be the Steelers starting quarterback for the remainder of the season. He's 35. He's been on the shelf all preseason, basically. He's going to get hurt again. You'll get to see Justin Fields again. But if it's not better from Justin Fields in game 3, like significantly better, like 3 touchdowns better, like you're the reason why you win the game better, you do got to go with the guy that you hope can put the ball in the end zone, because you can win a lot of regular season games this way. You can't win a playoff game this way. It's not going to happen.
What worries me is the conversation we had last week. Oh, short week. And, you know, a day and a half of preparation for Justin Fields. Let's see him on a full week. He did get a full week, and against a bad football team. I know that it was an away game. I know that Mile High is a tough place to play with the altitude and all that stuff, but we did get a full week of preparation for Justin Fields, of him being the guy and him knowing he was going to be the guy and them knowing he was going to be the guy, and this is what the end result was.
Yeah.
That does worry me.
Yes.
A lot.
Yes. You're right about that. Everything I said last week, I also had, if I'm forming an argument, if I'm writing a thesis, one of the top points was he had a half a day of practice.
Yep.
This week, that's not the case. Not the case at all. And you can't rush, man, for 141 yards in the NFL and not put up more than 13 points.
Mm-hmm.
Right. There needs to be play action off of that. There needs to be deep shots. And they took their shots. And look, the statistics would look better if some of those pass interferences just went down as receptions. Like, they did take some shots, which I'll credit Arthur Smith for that. I think they're doing a really good job in the running game. I'll credit Arthur Smith for that. But when you run that effectively, you got to put up points.
Mm-hmm.
And now that we've got a 2-game sample and not just a 1-game sample, you're scoring 16.5 points a game. That's where you were last year. That's not going to be good enough. How do you feel about the quarterback situation, Steelers fans? 412-928-9370. Hey, maybe Eli Holstein could be the next Steelers quarterback.
Oh, Lord.
Let's not have that happen.
I know one thing. That the Steelers will never in this lifetime draft a pick quarterback.